group, a poetry open night hosted by Emma Purshouse. Now, we have new people joining us tonight. So just to introduce ourselves very briefly, Chris Baker, Ward Jones, and myself, Andrew Homer, we take it in turns to chair, and we have George McFadden on technical. Now, just the presentations themselves are recorded and available on YouTube, but even so, could I ask people to please keep microphones turned off unless you're actually taking part. If you do have a poem to share, please just drop your name in the chat to get on the open mic. Also, with any comments or questions, please put them in the chat as well. Now, we are very fortunate in the Black Country Society to have as our editor, Emma Purshouse, who does an absolutely amazing job of putting our flagship magazine together 4 times a year. However, many of you will already know Emma as a writer, novelist, and performance poet. Her many achievements in the spoken word were recognised in 2020 when the city of Wolverhampton invited Emma to be their very first poet laureate. Who better then to host our first virtual open mic poetry evening than our very own Emma Purshouse. Over to you, Emma.
Thanks, Andrew. It's lovely to see everybody here. The event will happen, I've got a running order, so I know what's happening. You might not know the order that you're going in if you've already put your name forward to take part, but I'll kind of give you some clues about that. If, as Andrew said, you want to put your name in chat because you've got something with you, but you haven't let us know, please do that. There will be a chance to kind of squeeze you into the running order if that is what you'd like to do. So I thought what I'd do is I'll actually start with 2 poems. There is a screen share facility that we're going to kind of use so that you can look at the poems that some of the people are reading and sharing. So I think what we're going to do now is just put that into motion, and I'm going to get the screen share up if that's possible, so we know that that's working. So just bear with us a second. There we go. So if you want to, you can look at the text and the poet. Some of you will have a line down the middle of your screen that you can kind of move the text and make it smaller if you want to look at the poet, or move the text and just look at the text if you don't want to see the poet's face. So that's kind of the plan, really. So I'm going to start with 2 sonnets, which I wrote about. I saw a bit of graffiti on the wall in Tipton, and it said, "Joanne loves Callum," on the wall just as you come out the train station. And I decided to imagine who Joanne and Callum might be. And these 2 poems that I'm going to start with, basically a poem for each of them. So this is Callum. Callum. He knows he really should ask. Spit it out, lad, you don't want to let that one get away. But he hasn't got the gift of the gab. He's not like his dad. Good job, some'd say. He flings out bread in the hope that they'll feed, sets up 2 rods, his alarms, a keep net, one eye out for shadows amongst the weed, one eye on the bridge, though it's early yet, much too early for her to show her face. Yet his stomach, as every time they meet, is still flick-flacking away like live bait, his head giving him not good enough grief as he casts to where he thinks a fish is, strikes early, hook grazing a lip, misses. So that's Callum's sonnet. And the second one is Joanne's sonnet. I like fishing. I do. When it's sunny, it's nice down here by the water's edge. Oh, hang on. Just a second. It gets a bit dull. And in that there hedge, I've seen rots as big as cats, and I'm sure he ain't even clocked me top or me hair. And all I hear is this rig and that lure, spinners and skimmers, like I really care. And yes, I loved it when I caught that bream, our arms touching as we reeled it in. But sometimes I swear I just want to scream, shove him in. And I would if I knew he could swim. Callum, for God's sake, there are no carp. Just ask me the cow out, you'll have it dark. So there you go. There's your first two poems of the evening, Joanne and Callum's little sonnets. The next poet I'm going to introduce, I'll just tell you now, is going to be Moggs. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Moggs. Moggs will get himself ready while I'm doing that. And then after Moggs, we've got our first open mic at who will be Keith Bracey. So if Keith, you want to get yourself ready to go after Moggs. So some of the poets this evening have been invited along. We knew they were coming, so I've got a little bit of information about them. So Moggs is originally from Hales Owen, now lives in Stourbridge, and he's emailed the BBC a number of times to point out to them that the Black Country is not a suburb of Birmingham. Last year he had two collections of poetry published, a second one for children and one of Black Country poetry called A Black Country Chap's Life of Rhyme. And there is a screen share for this if you want to see the words. But otherwise we're going to ask Moggs to hopefully unmute and share two poems with us.
Am I unmuted?
You are indeed, Moggs.
Cool. Excellent, thanks. Yeah, maybe a mistake letting you have screen share the text, because you'll see that I wander off script. Anyway, this first one, I wrote it because there seemed to be a number of different theories as to how the Black Country derived its name. And I don't think there's any general census of opinion which is correct. So this is just one of those theories. And the poem's called, Why is it called the Black Country? Some say the Black Country was given its name by Queen Vicky one day on a visit, gawked from her train and then says, "Hey, Bert, t'ae very clean up here, is it? Look at them chimblies belching out smoke and factories covered in sooty shite." Now you wouldn't have thought her'd have put it like that. Queens and posh and usually polite. "Everywhere's black," her says, "even the sky. It looks a right shithole of a place. The folk are all common and covered in crap. Don't think they've ever had soap on their face. Tell the train driver we don't want to stop. It's so cack here, one don't wish to look. We ain't ever seed such a black country afore." And it said, from that day, the name stuck. With that, her was off, window blinds shut, as her train chuffed off down the track. 'Twas her only trip to that part of her realm, and her said, "You won't catch we coming back." But what her day twig, as her headed was that Black Country folk never tire. They'd slog day and night to make the whales turn, to help pay for her massive empire. Them factories was the heart of a nation. Most stuff you could buy then was made there. And the folks they mind being covered in shite and breathing the crap in the air. But if her was to come back up this way today, her wouldn't half get a surprise. More than a century after he made that first trip, her'd be shocked at the Black Country's demise. 'Cause the chimblies gone, the whales turned no more, the heart of a nation stone dead. And where factories once stood to make stuff for the world, they've now built shopping centres instead. Thank you. Right, this second one, there are 5 rivers in England which bear the name Stour. And the one that runs very close to me is referred to by the Rivers Authority as the Severn Stour because it flows into the River Severn. And although it's only a very short river, about 28 miles, it's played a huge role in the industrial past of the Black Country in this area. So I've written this poem, it's called The Severn Stour. A child of Worcestershire, forged in the Clent Hills, finds its way to the Black Country, then dips a languid toe in Staffordshire, before easing its way to Stourport to be consumed by the Severn. Once industry plotted every meander of its short journey, stalked each twist and turn, as it pushed past mills, cooled glowing glass, and weaved a path through carpet factories. Iron forges greedily drank in its purity and spat out their vileness to drown the fish in tainted water. It gave its very soul to the ceaseless demands, gave its life blood to feed the leeching canals that shepherd its bewildering progress. For centuries it was abused, bullied from nature's intended course, pushed through culverts, forced under roads and buildings. The parasitic factories and forges may be gone, but still it struggles to catch its breath, suffocated by a cocktail of casually discarded poisons. The Stour, no Amazon or Nile, but in its own way, just as mighty, carried the burden on timid shoulders for so long. It suckles on Clent's tributaries and hides in plain sight as it tiptoes unnoticed through the Black Country's backyard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Moggs. That was fantastic. If anybody's interested in finding out more about Moggs, I've put his website into the chat there and a little SoundCloud link to the kind of things that he does. Next up, we've got Keith Bracey, who's going to be sharing a poem about Black Country lungs. And again, we've got a screen share for this, so we'll just give that a second to get that back up. And then I'll invite Keith to unmute and share his poem. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you, Emma. Yes, I'm feeling a bit of a usurper, really, because I'm a Brummie from Edgbaston, the Bearwood bit of Edgbaston, and I've published a book under the name Brummie Bard called From Bearwood and Beyond. But that's enough of me. This is my poem, Black Country Lungs. 'Twas on the day that Harry and Meghan wed, we came together to honour our Black Country dead, those living too, sharing that vital spark that they used to light up here at lovely Lightwoods Park. Black Country lungs that breathed their last, for so many the deadly die was cast, with smoking and industrial disease, the cause of their early, much lamented demise. Black Country lungs were ravaged by COPD, a blessed release as they passed. It set them all free. Women like Anne told how she couldn't breathe, her Brummie lungs congested by a Black Country disease. Then along came Corinne to take pictures of their plight, with oxygen masks, helping them make much light of this terrible disease, which was such a devilish blight. But Corinne came along to make them feel bright. By telling their stories to the rest of the world, it gave them all purpose as their suffering unfurled. Such lives well lived in the tough foundries and mines, these Black Country folk had shown such backbone and spine in their fight to make a living in tough times. Corinne Noordenbos, this Dutch lady artist, gave them their lives back with a voice at their parting. Black Country lungs breathed their last in the park. Black Country folk are the salt of the earth.
Thank you so much, Keith. I I actually went along to that exhibition, the Black Country Lungs exhibition that you talk about. And I believe if anybody wants to find out more about that, it was actually an arts project by West Brom arts organisation Multi-Story. So maybe have a look at that and check that exhibition out. It was amazing. And of course, Keith's book, From Bearwood and Beyond. I've just put that into the chat as well. Next up, we've got another performer going to be sharing 2 poems who booked in advance to be with us this evening, and that's going to be Cully Coley. So while Cully gets herself ready, I'll just give you a little bit of information about her. After that, we're going to have another open mic slot from Gerald Kells. So I'm just telling Gerald to get himself ready there, really. So Cully Coley is the current Poet Laureate for the city of Wolverhampton. So good, they've actually kept her on for another 6 months, but she might tell us about that. She's published by Offers Press. She's got a pamphlet with them called Patchwork and a full collection called A Wonder Woman. You can find out more about Cully via her website, and she's also a founder member of Wolverhampton's Punjabi Women's Writers Group. There's a screen share of this, the 2 poems that Cully's going to do as well, with a little glossary at the bottom of one of the poems, which Cully will probably explain to you. So please welcome Cully Coley.
Thank you, Emma. It's great to be here. And I'm going to share a couple of poems about my mum and dad. This poem is about my dad. He used to be a bus driver, and we used to go on the buses as holidays rather than real seaside holidays. We went to Black Country holidays on the buses. So this is what, at the end of the poem, I'll explain what I mean by the dialects. So this is on the buses. Going on the buses with my little brother and sister on the street of Brady Hill, Darlison, Dadaji, Burnsbury, Mary Hill, Aubrey, Sundrella, West Brahmin, Baragam, Beaushore, Bandyford. I loved these family days out when Dad was a bus driver, proud of his red, white and black DD52780 ID badge, uniformed his own bus on a double-decker bus. I saw his uneasiness when young skinheads boarded, shouting, bloody stinking packy raghead, taking their jobs. Sometimes Dad would carry on like he was deaf. Other times responded bluntly, get off, you stupid bastard. Disturbed, he'd moan to his Punjabi colleagues. They'd all swear at him at Punjabi, at ungrateful customers. I saw the sparkle in his eyes as blonde and brunette women in tiny dresses and high heels giggled. How, Miller? Replying in his Indian accent, I'm very fine, love. How, I'm not going down the bus station, chattering, got any pennies, me duck? I ain't got enough. Winking, he would let them on for free. I had never seen Dad behave so funny. At break time, we'd play with rolls of great tickets. We'd run up and down the empty double-decker bus, sticking navy no tickets, posters everywhere. In turn, we'd sit in the driver's seat, pretending to drive the great blue and cream monster, singing, the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round. Dad treated us kids with large fish and chips, while he ate chapati and with curry and drank spiced tea. Mum surprised in a packed lunch with in a steel thermos. Back then, I saw very few brown faces in a sea of white. Today, the Black Country lives up to its name, 30 diamonds embedded in a respected cultural mix, on all together on the buses. Now, the Punjabi dialectics in this poem are Radi Hill, which means brother's tractor, which is Raleigh Hill. Darlison is lentils or garlic, which is Darlaston. Dadaji is granddad, Dudley. Bensbury is sister's old woman, Wensbury. Mary Hill is my plough or tractor, which is Mary Hill. And Sundrilla, no, Albury is hey old woman, which is Oldbury. Sundrilla is dried root ginger thyme, which is Sandwell. And my favourite is Borough Gum, which is extreme sadness, which is Birmingham. West Bromwich, West Peace is West Bromwich. Walsall is Talk Shawl, which is Walsall. And the last one is Burndyford, which is very, very bad swear word, which is Pendyford. Now, that's what Dad's done. And this is about my mum. And it's got some Punjabi words in it. I'll just say dupatta is a Punjabi headscarf, and the Goriya are white women. A piece of India. It's a small piece of India hidden from the limelight. Vibrant colours smudged in shadows of charcoal, away from the dusty heat and gossips of the Punjab. Thousands of miles away from her friends and family. Like a jigsaw piece, lost and awkward in another world. She looks forward to a night out, a touch of gold dust. Her child clings onto her hip while her husband escorts her to the pictures, the world of Indian cinema. Her sparkling sequinless salwar kameez, a dupatta wrapped around her body, gleaming like a dream, compares herself to her neighbours dressed in outfits of silk, satin saris, and the women across the road, not wearing much at all. She gawps at them in their tight jeans, flimsy vests, mini frocks, wonders how these Gordians show off their private bare, blushed pink skin in the damp, cool air. Porcelain dolls sway in the wind, fearless like the rain. They think out loud. Them that Indians look like walking Christmas trees, don't they? They exchange gentle nods in a cultural clash. As the pictures, hours flash by in a world of glamour and stars, while her husband paces about, cradling, comforting the baby. A generation later, that baby, that child made in India, a lost mosaic piece glinting, catches an eye or two, picked up, polished, and added to a new montage. An ideal fit in the Black Country, a place called home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cully. That was a fantastic reading. We've got some love in the chat for the meanings of the Black Country place names, kind of, and their Punjabi versions. So do check that out. That was really funny. Oops, I've just put that into chat to say where you can actually get Cully's publications. So thank you very much for that reading, Cully. Wonderful. Next up, we've got another open micer, and I'm going to ask if Gerald would like to do 2 poems if you've got 2 poems with you, Gerald, because Dave Pitt has cried off sick, so we've got a little gap. And then after Gerald, I'm going to ask Anne Babs if she'd like to share, and Anne, if you'd like to do 2 poems as well, that would be great. Please welcome next Gerald Kells.
Okay, well that's great. I'm going to start with an ekphrastic poem, i.e. one about a picture. It's one of only 2 dialect poems I've done. I'm an incomer to the Black Country from 1979, so be kind to me if I don't get the accent quite right. But this is about a picture that was sketched of St. Peter's Church in Wolverhampton, which you, I'm sure, will know, by an artist who you may have heard of called J.M.W. Turner. And it's a watercolor, and you can look it up afterwards. J.M.W. Turner sketched that church, came in on the 529. That was before the metro arrived, or the new bus station. Back when Springfield Brewery still operated, drank at the Posada with his mates.
Springfield Brewery, it's where Grandad worked.
J.M.W. Turner sketched that church, had a bit of time to wait before Blood Brothers at the Grand, so he walked through the Mander. Do you remember Tower Records? He liked the Clash, did J.M.W. Turner. J.M.W. Turner sketched that church. It was too far to St. John's Square, he explained. It may have Georgian facades, but no one visits, not out there beyond the market. Worked on the crew that built the Black Country Road, so a mate told me. Employed by Tarmac when you were off sketching. One of St. Peter's, it took a minute. Oops, sorry. I think I missed a bit there. What do you do with that picture, he asked, when I saw him on the metro recently. I don't recognise him at first. The one I gave you, he said. The one of St. Peter's. It took a minute to organise his features. They were on the pop. It's on the wall, I told him. You should have sold it, he said. I shrugged. It were any good, he explained. Not like the Fighting Temeraire. I looked bemused. It's a ship, he said. Some guy in Tettenhall paid me £100. He was into his history. You off to the Grand, I asked. He nodded. Blood Brothers, I asked. He nodded again. I like to go, he said. I remember the plot. It's a good show, I replied. I might do some sketching later, he said. It's just my legs ain't what they used to be, not like before the operation. The point I'm making is that J.M.W. Turner sketched that church. He gave it me for my birthday. Or was it Constable? They both drank at the Merry Boys on the Willenhall Road, along with Picasso. I get these painters all muddled up. I know he didn't buy me around. So that's J.M.W. Turner sketching that. And the other one I'm going to read is called Bandstand, and it's about the park that used to be right where I lived. It isn't now, but it's in Palfrey Park. It's called Bandstand. They played here in the past when the houses were first built, when Victorians crept outwards into the ribbons between towns. They bought tubas and trumpets and all the paraphernalia of the Zion Tabernacle Choir. There's no photograph of this, just by the way. They bought tubas and trumpets and all the paragraph of the Zion Tabernacle Choir, starched collars on godly ladies. Later, football-driven kids kicked their ways out of these terraces into rows of council-administered houses. Pitches were added, until a ring road carved a moat round their inner sanctum of working men and women, ghosts without indoor toilets, who Hitler tried to kill. The trees shivered from his bombs. The bandstand's been restored, and all around it, running and jumping, shouting for joy. A palfrey horse stands guard over a community unaware that trees can weep more sorrow than the world before they brighten up. Not just a new beginning, a chill morning when saplings bud green into hackneyed springtime, but a rebirth stronger than the starch collar of yesteryear could have imagined. A coming out in rainbow hues, a paradise of saris and trainers, of Bhangra rhythms, a diversity as wide as the red, green, and yellow of a rasta swimming impulsively to the beat like the blues, oranges, and purples of the wildflower meadow. On the black and white net put on sticks across the tennis court so we can all play badminton together. And what of those Victorians, their ghosts perch crow-like on the keep fit equipment, their white calves running forward like the clock beat of time, a kind of joy that accelerates the music around them. I do not think they watch enviously or fear that the hope engendered by their brass band has been forgotten. Right here between the cacophony of the crowd and the singer's heart, I lie on the grass, look up at the open blue, catch the thunder of drums while they reflect back approval from the mirror of the sky. Our park survived for this. Come and visit our park, Palfrey Park in Walsall. Thank you very much. That's me.
Thank you, Gerald. Lovely to see you, and thank you for your I like the idea of Turner on the 529. Next up, we're going to have Anne Babs. Anne is a Walsall-based poet. I think she's in Walsall, but she's got part of the Office Press New Voices pamphlet that has recently come out. So I'll mention that in chat. But Anne, if you'd like to unmute and make your way to the virtual stage.
Hi, yeah, a couple of poems. The first one is my mum's story, really, and it's called Growed Up. 7 years old, chobbling suck. Her mum's mind your teeth ringing in her ears. She spends the day skimming bibbles on the cut, waiting to be growed up. 14 years old, before teenagers were invented, she works at the factory, stamping bolts, blushing at what the women say, but knows that all men are not, the words she cannot say, still waiting to be growed up. 21 years old, good friends, factory day trips to Blackpool. Mystic Rose says she'll live by the sea and have 3 kids and will never want for money. That's the growed up she wants. Doesn't quite happen. She marries a good one, has 2 kids, goes back to the factory. Power pressing days, battered fingers full of swarf. Then hope to cook the tea before his shift finishes. Too exhausted to be anything but content. A growed up life. It's about me mum. This next one's a short one, and it's about me when I was growing up. It's called Playing Out. If gas came round, we'd play marlies in the gutter, aim for the fobber, do swapsies on gas toys, go on blarting if I win. If his sister Gail come with him, we had to play dolls. I don't enjoy it. Walking a tiny tears babby round the close, canting to it like it knew what we said. If it did, it'd hear me saying the same over and over again. This is boring, ain't it? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. Anne's poetry can be found in New Voices from Offers Press. Most of the poets that you're hearing this evening perform on the local spoken word circuit. Do ask about that if you want to later on. And many of them have been published in various places as well. So I am putting that in chat if I know where those places are, which in most cases I do. Now, is Peter Cutler has sent in a poem and asked me to share it. It's an unattributed poem that was published, I believe, in Punch magazine after Queen Victoria visited Wolverhampton. And apparently the poem created some controversy in the press. So I shall read the poem to you as Peter's requested, and then I will give you the quotes that that he's also sent in about what people said about the poem. So it's called The Queen in the Black Country. Gracious Queen Victoria, Wolverhampton greets you, pranks her unlovely face in smiles with homage as she meets you. Underneath her arch of coal loyally entreats you. Wreaths, nails, locks and bolts, and near the iron trophy seats you. Grimy labour washes and puts on its Sunday clothes, for holiday unwanted forges cool and smithies close. Pale, toil-stunted children leave their nailing for the shows. The stream of subterranean work idly above ground flows. In honour of the Queen, whose very name sounds strange and odd. Too many here that know no more of a Queen than of God. Slaving from dawn to darkness at nail hammer and nail rod, their backs bowed to the anvil and their souls chained to the clod. The Queen comes honouring those who, honouring him, she loved and lost. Albert, good, wise and thoughtful, who in spite of chill court frost, kept the green spring of head and heart alive, not counting cost of time or toil or scorn that scoffed or doubt his work that crossed. 'Tis well his statue should stand high in this black country's core, looking across these cindery wastes, seamed, scathed and ashy hoar, where the eviscerated earth knows seasons change no more, where the only seed is gold, the only harvest coal and ore, where greed has gone upon its quest with naked hand and brow, naked and not ashamed, bent to gain, not caring how, blighting man's life, even as it blights the blossom and the bough, over souls and over bodies, driving its iron plough, till stamp of sex is beaten out and youth is hard and old. Rude toil makes ruder leisure, man grows brutal, women bold, and so the iron is but dug and forged and hived the gold. Few questions how heaven's grace recedes and the devil's way gains hold. 'Tis well the good, wise, thoughtful prince should show his gentle face betwixt the wealth and wretchedness of this unhallowed place, pointing to Christian goals, competition's reckless race, making property less selfish, to rude labour adding grace. Guide for teaching of the highest, how good work should be done. Proof for comfort of the humblest that high and low are one. Record a life's course, by love's and duty's compass run. All lessons needed here, the earth's smoke quench, not God's sun. So that was the poem that Peter wanted me to read. And apparently, after the week after, I think it was in Punch, they published that somebody had written in and it said, some lines in our last number called The Queen in the Black Country have, it seems, given pain to certain susceptible inhabitants of Wolverhampton. One lady returns our last week's number to the publishers as unworthy to be bound up in this year's volume on account of an article embodying so much ignorance and ill feelings as she finds in the lines above referred to. And apparently Punch responded by saying it was not sorry that its arrow has gone home and hopes more are roused to indignation, and that it is only sorry the picture of the Black Country should be so true. It also cites a report of a couple of years earlier by the Children's Employment Commission and other publications, where the quote is for that, if bitter waters of truth have caused wry faces to any such, Mr. Punch is sorry. The tonic was not meant for them. It was administered lovingly. So there you go. Punch and Queen Victoria poem that wasn't very well received, apparently. Next up, let me just go back to my script here. Bear with me a second. Yeah, there we go. Next up, we've got Steve Pottinger. I'll say a few words about Steve while he gets himself ready to read. Steve Pottinger is a founding member of Wolverhampton Arts Collective, Poets, Prattlers and Pandemonialists. He's a performer who's performed his work the length and breadth of the country, and he appears regularly online in things like Culture Matters and the Morning Star. He's won loads of different prizes for his poetry, and his 7th volume of poetry, entitled Snapshots from the Fall of Home, has just been published by Ignite Books and is out now. I'll put that in the chat in a little while. Steve, can you unmute, and would you like to share a couple of poems with us? And I think these are on the screen share as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. Yeah, I'm just going to read you 2 poems. The first one, it's pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just dive straight in. In praise of the hardiness of market traders. The lady with the market stall is there on Wednesdays, come shine, come rain. All her goods set out on 100 cardboard boxes, come shine, come rain. Sheep's feet, dog chews, tripe-flavoured treats, seed for pigeons and parrots, robin and budgies, come shine, come rain. The last lass gave it up for a job in a building society, warmth of an office, come shine, come rain, for the promise of sick pay, holiday pay, steady hours, the security of wages, come shine, come rain. Perhaps this one's made of sterner stuff, face lined and smiling, hands busy with fags and matches, come shine, come rain. I hope so. Visitor each week for the banter and the laughter, by pig's ears for foxes, come shine, come rain. And this second one, so I'm over in Willenhall, so the one end of the Black Country, and this poem was written over in the other end of the Black Country at the Glass Museum in Stourbridge, and I was over there with Emma. We were doing poetry on demand, where anybody who came to the museum, we'd write a poem for them there and then on any subject they wanted. It's quite a fun thing to do. But in the Glass Museum, as you go in, if you turn left and go through a door, you are in a little mezzanine platform looking out over a glass maker's studio. And the fellow who works there is a glassmaker called Alistair Malcolm. And I watched him and his assistant working, and I pestered them with questions. And I ended up writing this poem. And the day that we were there, they had a commission to make, I think it was 50 butterflies in glass. So this is called To Make a Glass Butterfly. Start 25 years ago, at least. Heat your furnace to 1140 degrees centigrade, add glass to crucible and wait till molten. Over next 2 years, open furnace door, insert rod, rotating crucible and remove gobbet of glass glowing on tip. Repeat till mastered. Learn to tell jacks from calipers, tweezers from shears, the role and uses of a blowtorch. How frits and powders, chips, grits and metal leaf will add colour to the molten form. Everything has its place. The glassmaker's chair that hasn't changed for centuries, the pad of damp newspaper laid over the palm which permits the roll and working of a piece in safety. Train the eye to gauge how much life is left in a setting creation, the seconds or minutes before it must return once more to soften in the furnace. 25 years on, the customer asks for a butterfly in glass. You're ready now. You may begin. Ta.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's just lovely hearing the variety of different kinds of poems that all kind of have Black Country themes, from contemporary to stuff that's kind of reflecting our past as well, and our kind of the heritage and the work here. I've got somebody put their name forward to do an open mic. Michael Colley, are you here? And do you want to share any work? I don't know that I've seen. Oh, it might be Michael's iPad, maybe. Michael, are you here? And do you want to share?
Mute. Is that okay?
Yes, brilliant, Michael. Yeah. I'll just please welcome Michael Colley.
Okay, it's Coley Smith, but no matter. Right. Okay, I grew up in the Black Country in the 1940s. So, and the poems that I started writing a few years ago very much refer to that time. I've got two poems. The first one, which is called Steam Hammer. I just ought to say, I and my older brother, we shared a bedroom in the 1940s, and we'd often lie in bed at night listening to the thud of the huge press at the steel forging factory of Walter Summers in Hales Owen. It was a sound that could be heard for miles around. So this is the poem. Steam Hammer. It was on still nights we could hear it, or when the wind was blowing from the east. Elephant-hide drum, pum, pum, for the tappity-tap of our tom-toms. The troll beating time for the three billy goats, the giant smelling blood, his fee, foe, fum. Sometimes the wind was wayward and sucked the sound into the distance. We'd strain then at the silence. Shut up, we'd say, if either of us spoke. We both wanted to be first to hear it when the wind carried back the sound. Pum, pum. Those nights had many voices, screech owls crying from the woods, wind in winter throwing ice at the windows, the sirens' wail, bombers droning high overhead, and that reassuring pum, pum, that told of men shaping steel with steel. Okay, the second poem is about a night that I spent in the mid-1960s. It happened to be a particularly hard winter in the Midlands at that particular time. So, okay, this is a winter's night. The lane is white, the hedges heavy with snow. No cars pass. The beech trees climbing Clent of sprouted glass, crooked iced teeth, crowded grey on black. Under my feet, dead leaves crunch. Where roots snag the path, I pick my way carefully. Out of the trees, a smooth of snow levels and dips ahead, rising where the 4 stones stand. As I step closer, my footprints uncoiling behind me, the stones take shape. 4 old men stooped against the cold, waiting for a sign. Here on the white bulk of the hill, gorse bushes crouch, white-hooded, watchful, possum still. I look back, blacker than the sky, a line of firs dance hand in hand down the hill's flank, plumed heads nodding to a tune I cannot catch. The Black Country is a net of fairy lights stretched out. Dudley, Tipton, West Bromwich, Stourbridge, Cradley, Smethwick, Hale Zoe. When the furnaces open beyond lie, the sky gapes red, the clouds on fire and flaming. No booming voice floats across, no clanging chord, just a hush in the pines, a wisp of snow lifting from the ice-hard track. In the empty hillside tavern, a fire blazes. A music box stands like a wardrobe in a corner. The Star of Bethlehem is wrapped in a brass disc. A penny in the slot jerks the disc around, a jumble of notes, a jangle of sound, a crazy rhythm to which bushes may sway. Trees dance down a hill. Old men get up and jig. So just in conclusion, that particular poem was, like I say, it was a night in the 1960s, and of course the Round Oak Steelworks at Brierley Hill was still up and running at that time, and sometimes at night, certainly from the top of Clent, you could see those absolutely fantastic red clouds and something really very special to see. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was beautiful, beautiful poetry. Really enjoyed listening to that. Thank you. We've got, as far as I'm aware, we've got 3 more people who are going to read. So next up, we're going to have Heather Wasty. So while she gets herself ready, and I'll say a little bit about her. And then after that, I think we've got Jeff Cook, who expressed an interest in reading. I can see the name up there, so hopefully he's ready. And then after that, we'll have Brendan Hawthorne, who will be closing things off, and then Chris Baker will read some poetry that he's going to share as well, but that's not his own. So unless anybody else puts their name into chat just now, which if you wanted to share something, just stick it in there now. That's the running order for the remainder of the event. So next up, I'm going to welcome Heather Wasty, who didn't send me a biog about herself, but luckily I know quite a bit about Heather. Some of you may have seen.
I did, Emma. I emailed you, yeah, and my poems.
I got the poems. I didn't get any biog. I don't know, but never
I put
mind.
it in the email.
Oh, all right then. I can make something up, luckily.
Wonderful. I look forward to hearing what you say.
Heather Wasty does a tremendous amount of work across the Black Country. She's been a poet in residence at the Carpet Museum in Kidderminster as well, not in the Black Country, but certainly a very interesting job. And also worked as part of the theatre company that put Idle Women show onto the Canal Network that some of you might have seen, talking about women working the canal boats in the wartime. I'll put into chat a link to Heather's website while she's actually reading, so you can kind of find out where she's where you can get hold of her work. So please welcome Heather Wasty.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you for putting the poems up as well. Yeah, you said you got my poems, didn't you? What? How strange. Right, I'm here. I lived in Cradley Heath from the age of 0 to about 12, and I'm descended from Coopers. There was a cooperage in Cradley Heath. So I am going to do a cooperage poem, but this one is actually about chain women. I've been doing a lot of research on my family tree, and my family tree is absolutely full of chain makers, and I'm fascinated by what life must have been like for the women. So I wrote this poem, and in order to help me write it, I got some people to make suggestions on Facebook, because I was aware that in the Bible, you get a man begets. He's the begetter, however you would say it, but it's the woman who gives birth to the child. So I wanted to find different ways of saying that. So this is called And Eliza. Heat the rod. And Benjamin, Jaws harp maker, who bent tongues in Netherton, begat Henry, firstborn, chainmaker, bending iron in Craiglie Heath. And Henry begat William and his brethren, chainmakers. Also Jane, Eliza, Martha, Agnes, chain women, bending links with tongs. And Eliza brought forth Clara, birthed Agnes, Harry, Edith, Daniel, Annie, Amy, Eliza, chainmakers all. Heat the rod, pull on the bellows. And Eliza confines her latest babby, body still hot from childbed, wraps him tight in flannel, carries newborn John across the yard. And Eliza suckles, back bent over anvil, breathes in soot and dust, sparks spitting on her sweated arms. Heat the rod, pull on the bellows, bend the red-hot iron. And Eliza rocks her baby's tiny hanging chair with gentle touch of her disfigured ormorant. And Eliza delivers sop to her hungry children, bread, hot water, flavoured with drippings from the teapot. Heat the rod, pull on the bellows, bend the red-hot iron, twist the link. And Eliza bears the news from burial pages, chainmakers' children, month after month. And Eliza leaves the forge 2 minutes to see to summit in the saucepan, the expense of a nurse not to be born. Heat the rod, pull on the bellows, bend the red-hot iron, twist the link and weld it closed. Thanks very much for putting the poems up, Emma. I actually find it really useful to see the words as well as hear them. So I'm grateful because I know you've gone to a lot of trouble to do this. So our house in Craiglie Heath in Hollywood Street backed on to the cooperage, Thomas Travis Smith Limited, owned by my family. And I used to pop in to the cooper's shop where they were making tubs and barrels. So I can imagine the men who worked in there. And I heard the noises. I breathed in all the sawdust as well, which was lovely. I didn't consider how dangerous it was at that time, I have to admit. This poem is mostly made up of memories of my dad, who was describing, in particular, the hammer of a cooper called Jack. And there's a little bit of my cousin Jean in there, and also a guy called Malcolm who worked in the factory. Cooper Jack. Imagine 40 years of hammering hoops, circling a barrel round and round. Every day the steady tread, wearing down the bricks with his boots. Pick up his hammer. Highly polished head all twisted, shaft worn down where fingers and thumb have slid on wood and almost pushed right through the stale. His drivers, nails, his fitments, all his tools hang on the wall above a timber block where his chalk rests. Morning. Watch as he fills the stove with sawdust, lights the only source of heat. Smell the burning, eyes streaming, cough to clear your throat, and when the flues are warm enough to draw the smoke, breathe in the scent of scorching wood. Then join the coopers singing, feel the beat of every stroke. Stand back, for when the hoop is firmly down, Jack will toss his hammer onto the block. Another smack against the softwood, cracking brick behind it with the force of years. And Steve and Emma might recognise those poems. Steve was kind enough to long list the first one in the competition, and Emma completely ignored the second one in a competition.
My apologies. Thank you, Heather. I have actually found your biog now and I've put it into the chat. So if anybody would like to read that, it's now in the chat. Cheers, Heather. Jeff Cook, are you there and would you like to share?
I think I'm here. Am I here?
You are here, yes.
Right.
Welcome, Jeff Cook.
Okay. what I'm going to do is I'm going to sing. I hope that's all right. And
Sing away.
are you all right? That's what it's from, which is a performance piece. Again, it started from looking at my family history. And if you go to St Giles Churchyard in Rowley Regis, you'll find loads of my maternal side, which is the Ropers. There's about 52 of us there. This is about the nail makers, and it follows on from the riots which happened in the Black Country, this one in particular, about a young man called Ebba Johnson, who was 20 years old when he led a riot in 1842. So I will ignore the chorus because it goes on a bit, but if you'll bear with me. It's called the Nailmakers Song. In the year 42, the streets were full of angry men. The mills and factories were gone, no food to feed the bands. We took to making nails in the shops behind our homes. Our wives and kids had joined us, yeah, worked us to the bone. Instead of paying wages, we got food paid for in kind. No honesty, no decency, you robbed each family blind. You think you have the power and the weapons you may choose. You think we are the enemy and believe that you can lose. You masters took the profits as for each and every nail. You give us less and less, but raise the price of every sale. You think that you can beat us and think we misbehave. But we're the men of the Black Country and we'll fight you to the grave. In the year 42, you cut 4 shillings in the pound, and that was more than just enough for the men to gather round. The bells did call and a band of men joined up from town to town. From Cradley Heath and Netherton and Lye they could be found. Now Rowley Regis was a place that suffered from the worst, and a leader of this band of men unwittingly emerged. Ebba Johnson was his name. Just 20 years no more, led 2,000 men from Dudley Town to the Dudley Arms door, where the magistrates had hid themselves of fear of what they saw. And as the angry mob bore down on them, a meet they did implore. Now you think you have the power and the weapons you may choose. You think we are the enemy and believe that you can lose. You masters took the profit as for each and every nail. You give us less and less, but raise the price of every sale. You think that you can beat us and you think we misbehave. But we are the men of the Black Country and we'll fight you to the grave. The men who had until that day not done any wrong was seen to push the nail masters in front of the raging throng. They agreed to meet the magistrates, the grievances to protest, but the magistrates had cheated them, and the dragoons come at their behest. Police were placed in front of them, the brunt of violence to take, and the riot was quelled as the captain yelled, "Step back from them, you goats! Because you think you have the power and the weapons you may choose. You think we are the enemy and believe that you can't lose. You masters took the profit as for each and every nail. You give us less and less, but raise the price of every sale. You think that you can beat us and think we misbehave. But we are the men of the Black Country and we'll fight you to the grave." Well, a stone was thrown at the constables, and the dragoons then did surround. The raging crowd then took to flight and were harried to the ground. Then Johnson and 5 others were committed to the jail, though several other lucky men were given release upon their bail. Hard labour was the sentence, as the uprising it did fail. Now we may not have the guns or blades, but we'll fight you tooth and nail. You think we are the enemy and you have the weapons you may choose. You think we are the enemy and believe you can't lose. You think that you can beat us, and you think we misbehave. But we are the men of the Black Country, and we'll fight you to the grave.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much indeed. Next up, we have poet, playwright, and singer-songwriter, author, and comic compere, who's widely published. In actual fact, he appeared on one of Anthony Gormley's fourth plinthers in Trafalgar Square and performed on top of a plinth there, which is, perhaps he'll tell us about that, I don't know. If you know anything about Black Country spoken word, you won't you'll have seen this person here, there and everywhere. In the latest edition of the magazine, there's an interview with him because he's won a National Dialect Award for the third time, which is totally amazing, really. He's also been featured on Radio 3 and Radio 4. I'm going to shut up whiffling and put into chat where you can get his book, because you'll probably want it after you've heard him. Please welcome Brendan Hawthorne.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Thanks, Emma. Thanks for giving me the space. I'm going to start off with... oh, hang on. I've got to get my video going. Hang on. There we go. Technical. I'm going to start off with a poem called Still They're Gone. My playground in the 1960s and 1970s was the old canal system in Toll End. I was brought up in Tipton, made a name for myself and moved to Wednesbury. So that's where I am now. Just on the fourth plinth, yeah, it was. It's 18 meters high, that plinth is. And when the cherry picker drops you off and moves away, it ain't the best time to find out that you suffer with vertigo. So that made it quite interesting on the ring road around Trafalgar Square. Anyway, this is Still They Gone. Across the cast iron criss-cross bridge, a brickwork towpath still gives purchase to hobnail boot and horse's hoof. The Tame Valley connection meanders like an inquisitive mind to places long forgotten and ones lost to time. Its breath reeking like an old wet dog, with its waters bug-combing lurid weeded tresses of luminous green. They wave towards pumping station towers that balance offloads to canal containment, all watertight and locked in place. Along the banks, grey watchtowers where National Grid grins, born of girder-work tombstone teeth, their amber-beaded insulators crackling electrostatic discharge to moist, overcast air. Old factory networks lie fallen in silence, the last shift long gone. The blue-collar payday queue has dwindled to last one signing for their packet before putting out the lights. Now no one stops anymore where the workforce started, and the only time the still waters move is when feeding fish and skimming insects combine to form the occasional bow ripple crease that echoes migrating V's across storm cloud skies as geese fly noisily overhead, preparing to leave their summer home in such gentle waves.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, hang on. Have you got me other one?
Have we lost the screen share? Can we do the one there?
Have you got it? I can do it off my iPad. I've got it all here as a backup.
If you've got it, Bren, yeah, I think
Yeah,
just go for it.
no worries at all. The other poem I've got is about the changing nature of canals, but from a historical point of view. And this is just called History Repeating Itself. From the top of the lock gate, rusty winder, you can see your way down the cut. It silently reflects a backdrop of power station and forge mill soot. It's a stained glass window paid for in full by the sweat of the working herds, who couldn't afford a stone in the church or a mason's crafted words. Them factory gates have rusted through, or they missing from the mountain posts. That last rough journey behind a tatter's os seems to have silenced any ghosts.
Hello?
The boats lie sunk in silty sidings, their colours and flakes, because it was ordinary folk who flew the banners and kept their families clean. But now the sun sets over those in estates that have sprung up from brownfield soil, and there's no thought from the new wealth that's been served up with a navvy's toil. But if you're unquiet on a summer's night, you might just hear a boatman's call, deep from the mists of the old main line, or echoes from the mission hall. You might think you've heard a snorting os, see its nostrils flared out wide. It's all to do with the strain of the pull when crossing from here to the other side. But when you smell that smoking stack and there ain't no one else around, you know you ain't losing the mind or the marbles, 'cause canal folk ain't left it behind. They'm still as much of the cut as they've ever been, and they'm showing loyalty to their trade. Be transporting every brick or bolt or any other product made. They say they'm cutting this darkened water once more for old time's sake, and be cutting this darkened water. They'm leaving history in their wake. They'm leaving history in their wake. Listen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Fantastic. And I've put into chat where you can get hold of Brendan's latest collection of poetry. 70s Child and Other Fashion Trends is the title of that. To round off the evening, Chris Baker is going to share a couple of Jim William Jones's poems, who some of you may have come across. But before Chris does that, I'd just like to thank everybody that's performed this evening, and thank everybody that's come along to listen. I really hope that you've enjoyed that. Please welcome Chris Baker.
Thank you, Emma. Hopefully I can be heard. Can I also be seen? I hope I can be. Jim William Jones was born about 100 years ago, 101 years ago, and he wrote in both dialect and standard English, and he was a very prolific poet. He had a number of published books by the Black Country Society and a huge number of poems in past editions of the Black Countryman. Sadly, many of his poems aren't really available these days, but I've always liked them, so I'll just share a couple of them with you. The first one is called Black Country Slaughterhouse. The only slaughterhouse that I can think this would apply to is the one around Marsh and Baxter's in Briley Hill, but there are probably others because Jim Jones lived up Gornal Cosley way, so there might be other slaughterhouses there. The executioners bestride the road, their white gowns flecked with blood. Their arms are thick and dark with hair, swift in movement, eyes aware, as they form their grisly barrier across a sunlit morning street, slowing the tramp of morning feet, halting the rumble and the rhyme of wheels with the imminence of blood. The smell of death and cringing fear and fleshy rottenness are here. Intermingling in the air, we breathe its odour with despair, and retch in our souls' clean depths for the carnivorous strain that keeps us on our carnal plane of hungering for fresh killed meat and the salt-sweet taste of blood. Now the doomed herd tumbles forth in close-packed hordes of jostling pink. squealing, leaping on each other, running the rubber-booted gauntlet of those white-gowned, blood-flecked giants who creech and weave and flex their hairy arms like trees in wind, watching for the pig with shifty eye, who might espy an opening and fly, blind with fear, into the watching street, to dodge the wheel and crowding feet, and seek escape he knows not where, nor why. When they are gone, our life moves on, forgetting soon the tragedy we looked upon. Nor could we ever comprehend the blind, unreasoning race to death of pigs whose tiny pink-toed feet ran fearfully across a sunlit street. Jim Jones actually wrote a whole range of poems, and I'm reading tonight perhaps two of his darker ones, actually. But he could also be a great deal of fun, as many of you will know.
Darker than that.
But the second poem I want to read is quite a late poem from the late 80s, with Jim Jones reflecting upon the trauma that the Black Country suffered in that period with factory closures. Across the Leas. In the night you would hear the big steam trains shouting to one another across the Leas, and the barks of their funnels as they strained at the snake line of singing tricks loaded with coal, pig iron, sheet steel from the mills. In those days the Black Country was an empire of industry, fire and smoke, iron and steel, the wrenching of coal from deep earth, and limestone from the flux of boiling furnaces. Foundries, rolling mills, big men grappling with great power. And women, aproned in sacking, het tied, tough as the men they married, working as hard and bearing crowds of children, some to die in the constant battle to survive, in the boxy cottages back to back, sometimes 6 to a bed. In the night you would see, like an early dawn, a yawning glow of red fire across the Leas, and hear the heartbeat booming of pistons, thrusting great wheels and heavy rolls, and the furnaces puking their radiant vomit out. In those days, factory sirens would start the day in grand symphonic matter. What wondrous notes, with the sun's baton beating and the sky shouting bravo with clapping clouds, giving standing ovations from the galleries of heaven. In these days, the Black Country is lying down like a sick dog, no fight left. Iron and steel, the dribblings of an old tuck tin, crumbs of fire from the kicked ashes of bygone days. Foundries, rolling mills, all dead, like the men who gave them life. I find that metaphor of the Black Country like a sick dog with no fight left, one that just sticks in the mind somehow. You'll have gathered I'm a fan of Jim Jones's poem. I'm trying to put together and to get some of his old books into PDF form that hopefully someday soon we'll be able to get onto the Black Country Society website. But thank you, Emma, for the chance to read that. I hope you enjoyed them.
That was lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who came this evening. I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm going to hand back over to Andrew Homer, I think, to probably close the event and also probably mention when the Society's next meeting is. Thank you very much to everybody who came. Cheers.
Thanks, Emma. Well, massive thanks to Emma and all of our contributors for a fantastic evening of poetry and a Black Country folk song. Funnily enough, I remember helping to recreate that Nailmakers strike of 1842 at the Black Country Living Museum some years ago. Anyway, our next virtual history group online meeting will be on the 18th of March. Now, this will start with our official Black Country Society annual general meeting, which is open to anyone. The scheduled talk will follow, and this time it's my turn to investigate a few Black Country road ghosts and associated hauntings. So we look forward to seeing you then. So thanks again to Emma Purshouse and all of our contributors tonight, and a good night to you all. Good night.